Did you know accountability is more than one thing? It's actually a 4-step process that can have a huge impact on your effectiveness as a leader. I don't think there's ever been a more important time to really look at ourselves as leaders. It's been an interesting time coming through the pandemic and just watching how leaders across the world have responded. It's easy to sit back in the comfort of our own homes and judge leaders around the world, but it's another thing to actually be in their shoes and have to make decisions on a regular basis, decisions that affect all of us. We watched that play out during the pandemic. We watched that play out in recent elections, and in many ways it's been very painful. At the same time, I think what's great is that people are paying attention to others' leadership more than ever. And when we look at how other people are leading, we get to look at ourselves. And the real question is, if we're judging someone else being accountable or how effective they are as a leader, it's an opportunity to look at why that's triggering us. And how are we as a leader? How are we showing up? And are we showing up in a way that we want to lead? Years ago, I went from being an outside sales rep at the age of 22 to leading a $20 million company by the time I was 27. And I can remember being 24 years old and being introduced as a new branch manager at one of our locations at the time. And I was the new branch manager and I was super nervous. And I remember going in there and feeling very inexperienced. And I'll never forget this one conversation I had with one of the employees. She came in and she basically asked how I was going to lead and how I was going to be better than the person who came before me. And I remember thinking, I have no idea. I don't know that I'm going to be better. I don't even know, I didn't know who this person was or what that relationship was, but this person had moved on. And so I was the new kid on the block. And I was a kid to many of the people that were reporting to me now. And so it was really uncomfortable. But the thing that I just kept telling myself is, and something that I knew, was that at the end of the day, people really just want to know that you care about them. And people want to know that you care in the corporate world as well as, you in your own small business and people in your family and your community. People want to know you care. And as I've watched the world, shift over the last, 10 plus years, that's become even more important. What's become more and more clear to me is that people want two things. They want their leaders to be transparent and they want their leaders to care. And when they know those two things are true, they feel aligned with that leader. And so that's something you can ask yourself right now. Are you transparent with your team as a leader? And do you show your team members that you care about them? And that doesn't mean that you don't have good boundaries. That's not what I'm saying. But being a great listener is one way to show that you care, right? Showing up, taking the time to really listen, taking the time to understand what people are going through. People feel that, right? And when they feel that, they're more likely to do better at their job. I can remember just making the rounds when I was president of that other company. I'd make the rounds through the company just to check in with people. How are you doing? How are things going? And I would really listen. And one small conversation seemed to make such a big difference for someone who was working hard out in the field. And I'll just never forget that. So today we're going to actually talk about a 4-step process that I use and that helps me stay accountable and helps me be transparent as a leader. First, you want to clarify your responsibility and the outcomes that you were hoping to get in a certain situation. Inside of that, it's important to remember that as a leader, it's all our responsibility, right? Not everyone's job, but if you hired someone and they're not working out or they're having a hard time, that's still your responsibility. And so everything ends with us as the leader. And taking responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't feel like it's on you, somehow it probably still is on you. And it's easy enough as a leader to just say, you know what? I apologize. Or you know what? I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry that that's the decision I made and that's how it affected you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. And I'm going to change it. I want to make it better. And whether it's your team members or your clients, when you take responsibility for something or you apologize and you tell someone you're going to make it right, and then you do make it right, the trust increases exponentially. Because now people know that what you say you're going to do is actually what you do, and that you are willing to take responsibility even when it's uncomfortable. Second, it's important to understand the impact of our actions, good or bad. And, I can tell you that this is an area that I sometimes struggle because I feel like things can be moving really fast in my business and in my life. And I know if I don't take the time to slow down and really think about an action that I'm going to take, I might miss how that impacts someone else. An example for me is when I'm writing email. And sometimes I overuse email, or sometimes, I'll send a quick email, and to me, in my head, the quick email is like, hey, could you just handle this? But for the person who's receiving the email, it might sound demanding, or it might sound like I need something right now when really I don't. So I've had to learn to pull back on how I write emails and make sure that the message that I'm wanting to convey is the message that I'm sending. It's like using caps in an email or a text, right? We know you're screaming. So being mindful of the actions you take and how they're going to affect someone else and how that domino effect might go out into the world is really important as a leader. Third, take the appropriate steps, whatever they are, right? If something's gone south, or if you've made a mistake, take the appropriate steps as quickly as you can to fix it. Even if that feels really uncomfortable and makes you really vulnerable, the faster you address something, the better. Now, I will say this. Someone gave me some incredible advice years ago that I've always remembered. And she was a friend of mine that I looked up. She was an outside sales rep. I was an outside sales rep. She'd been hired before I had. She'd been working in the world longer than I had, so she had some really great experience. But the advice she gave me was this. She said, whatever you do, always follow the 24-hour rule. Now, this kind of goes up against what I just said, like handle things as quickly as you can. But there are times when taking 24 hours before you answer an email, especially if you're really upset, or before you talk to someone, it can be really powerful. And underneath that, if someone sends you an email and it really upsets you for whatever reason, I would ask myself if this should be handled by an email response or if it would be more appropriate to actually have a conversation. And 9 times out of 10, it's more appropriate and more effective to actually have a conversation with the person rather than just firing an email back. And finally, assess the outcome and provide feedback. If you've made a mistake or things went south, really look at the outcome. Whatever actions you took, what was the outcome? How was your message received? How did the person feel afterwards? Did it land the way you hoped it would land? And you can even ask for feedback. Maybe the next day you can check in with the person and say, hey, I just want to check in and see how our conversation landed. How are you feeling today? Is there anything else you want to share with me? Keeping that line of communication open can be really helpful for that person to build trust with you again, and for you to continue to lead in a way that's transparent and authentic. So today we talked about the importance of taking accountability, and we broke it down to a 4-step process that I hope was effective for you as a leader. We talked about clarifying our responsibility and what we hope the outcomes to be, understanding the impact of our actions, good or bad, taking the appropriate next steps in the situation, and assessing the outcome and providing feedback. Because you're still listening, I want to give you a quick pro tip. I invite you to develop your own 4-step accountability process. Take what I've shared today and tweak it to make it work for yourself. And then teach it to your team so they can follow it as well. If you enjoyed today's video, stick with me because up next, we're going to talk about how to build a strong culture with a remote team. And remember, your 2X is waiting for you too.